Now we're going to be solving quadratics by graphing, and the first form that we're going to look at is called vertex form. But first I want to make sure we go over some vocabulary. So a vertex of a parabola is either going to be a minimum or a maximum. If it's a minimum, it's the lowest point on a parabola. If it's a maximum, it's the highest point on the parabola. Then we have this thing called the axis of symmetry. That is a vertical line that's going to divide our parabola in half. Roots are the x-intercepts, which is where the graph is crossing the x-axis. And then we have a y-intercept, which we only have one, and that y-intercept crosses where the graph crosses the y-axis. So here's what a parabola looks like. It's this U shape. Our axis of symmetry is this vertical line that's dividing our parabola perfectly in half. It's always going to go through the vertex. Our roots in this situation is where we're crossing the x-axis. Here we have two. Sometimes we have only one. Sometimes we don't have any. The y-intercept is where our graph is crossing the y-axis. And then the vertex is in this case, the lowest point on the parabola. If our parabola was upside down, it would be the highest point. So in this situation, we have a minimum, and if it was upside down, we would have a maximum. Now this is vertex form of a quadratic. We have f of x equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Our vertex, if we're looking at vertex form, the vertex is the h value and the k value. The h value, notice in vertex form, has x minus h, so with h we're going to switch the sign, and then with k we're going to keep the sign. If we have a minimum, that is at our value of k, whatever k is, or if we have a maximum, that would also be at our value of k. Our axis of symmetry is going to be the equation of a line, and if it's vertical, our equation is x equal to a number, and that number is always going to be h, and remember we're switching that sign for h. The y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis, so we'll plug in 0 for x. Wherever we see x, put a 0. The roots are where the graph crosses the x-axis, which we could either have 0, 1, or 2 roots, depending on how that graph looks. Then our domain and range. The domain is always from left to right. The range is always from the bottom to the top.